Hey guys, welcome back. It's me, Gimpy, and I'm here with what I'm going to call a review through for Target for today for you. Basically, I'm going to review the game as I play through it, kind of tell you my thoughts on the components and the gameplay, but give you a playthrough at the same time. Pretty much what I do anyway, you know, on my playthroughs, but specifically I'll go a little more in depth on my my thoughts on the game. Subscriber actually got me this game, Target for today. I'd been wanting it for a little while, so I do appreciate that again, Stu. And I've been poking around at it for the past few days, playing with it, and it is very similar. Well, it's the spiritual successor to B-17, Queen of the Skies, and it has a lot more added to it. But it's definitely in the vein of games like that, like Silent Victory, The Hunters. What's that new one that just released? Raiders of the Deep. Wanted to try that one out. I saw some pictures of it, and it looks very similar to Silent Victory and The Hunters and the components, but it looks interesting. You know, cars look similar to cars from 50 years ago, but they got new bells and whistles on them, so you can still get excited about it. But let's take and get really into the meat of this. I would like to try to get it done in one video. I don't think I'm going to be able to. I'm going to try, but there are so many charts, so many dice rolls you have to make, and when you're playing a solo game like this, you have to expect that. It's all going to be chart based. You have to expect it, but it does slow down gameplay tremendously. And then when I'm having to kind of explain what I'm doing on top of it, it's going to slow it down even more. If you are someone who does not like games that have looking at charts, looking at player aids, figuring this out, figuring that out, this is not the game for you. I'll tell you right now, you can stop the video. You can say, thank you, Gimpy, I'm on my way to something else, because you are looking at nothing but charts. Books of charts. All right, not player aids of charts, but books of charts. Let me grab one. All right, here we go. One. This has, you know, different charts that are in it. Charts for pre-mission, for starting the mission, for the zones, for the combat tables, in the target zone, ending the mission. These are some of it. This is the one you're going to use a fair amount during the game tables. But okay, like Silent Victory, when I'm playing that game, I think I have something like 6 or 7 player aids that I have to keep track of during the game. This has just chart after chart after chart after chart, because not only do you have charts for everything that could happen, sometimes you're going to have different charts for the different planes that you can be flying, because the B-17 is going to have some different rules and variations from the B-24, you know, to get more historical and the differences they had. And then you've got the YB-40, which, oh my god, I love the YB-40. It's a flying gunboat. Love that thing. I'm considering now the spiritual precursor to the AC-130 gunship. I haven't flown that thing yet, but it looks so awesome. But you got that to consider, and all the little differences that come up with that. So where are the other books? Let's see. Without the rule book, you have these three. You got game tables, you've got this secret thing, and then you've got, you know, for damage that happens to your planes to consider, and then you've got the rule book on top of it, and then there are some player aids. There are just so many charts that they can't have player aids for this game, because you just have a stack of, you know, printouts for it. Before we get into it, I will say absolutely you need to get this file from BGG. It's on there. Make sure I credit the gentleman. Flowchart by Lou Corella. Hope I said that right. Right up here. He developed this play chart, and why this was not included in the game, honestly, I don't even know if I would have been able to play it at this point, because pretty much you would have to walk through these books, the little game tables, on what's happening, but there's no real order of play in the game. Not that I could see. I mean, maybe I missed one in the rule book somewhere, but the rule book does go in the order that you're playing. Okay, cool, roger that. But you do have to flip back and forth between the books sometimes, and when you're doing that, you might miss a step. This simplifies it tremendously. What you're going to do for your and he color-coded this thing. Good God. Legion Games, give this guy a job or something, because he really filled in a gap you guys missed here. Sorry to tell you. But yes, I meant to print it out, both of them on there. It's 2 sheets, by the way. on poster paper, but I missed one. It's on regular paper, so I'm going to reprint this one. But made my own player aids, and this guy, he did such a good job with it. And it starts you from moment one, create your bomber, to the ending your mission and what you're going to do. And the best part about it, like I said, he color coded it, all this sequence of play, but he puts the rules and the charts that you're going to. So, okay, weather over base. When you're rolling for that, it's table 3-1. Takeoff, table 3-1. Sequence of play, blah, blah, blah. Possible crash if you have to go there. And then, okay, well, we're starting our play here on the zones. First thing we're going to do is move, and then there's some possible exceptions, which you've got annotated here. Then we're going to check our weather. Then we're going to do mission recall, mechanical failure, contrails, German resistance, German waves. If we do have some combat, then we're going to go to these combat steps, and he's got them listed, and we're going to go all the way through it. Once we get done with that, then we're hitting another stuff. This one is for over the target zone, what we're going to do when we get to that section of the game. This is such a simple and needed addition to the game. I have no idea why it was not included in it, because look how many steps there are to this. Who the hell's going to remember that? And yes, the rulebook does go in the order that you're generally going to be playing the game, but there are steps where, you'll hit this and then you're going back to here. And when you're doing that, it's very easy to take and miss something, especially with all the tables, modifiers, die rolls, and everything that you got going on. You really need a flow chart to keep yourself on point. So Lou, outstanding job, my friend. You did a good job on this. I'll make myself a note actually to put a link to it, because this is such, out of all the games that I've played, and I've played a fair amount of war games, this is the best player aid. Not like it's the best quality, but it is the one that I have found that I needed the most out of anything I printed off of BGG. This one was the most needed. Outstanding job there. Okay, so enough of my gimpy rambling there. We'll get into the start of it. Oh, well, I'll tell you what. Before we do that, there was one other component quality thing I wanted to hit on. If you haven't watched my unboxing video for this game, go ahead and watch it. It lets you see what all comes into the game. Now, the counters themselves, right? So we got a stack of playing counters here. These are the ones that are going to be on the map when we're getting attacked. These are real nice. I have no problems with these. They're all nice and uniform, very well. No problem with these. The smaller ones, let me grab these guys here. That would be a good example. One's like, okay, this stack of green icons for the enemy pilots. And let me say real quick, if I sound a little nasally, I apologize. Someone decided to send their kids sick to my church's daycare, and they got my kids sick, and my kids shared it with me because they're just nice like that. If your kids are sick, keep them home. Don't send them there to share it with other people. All right, the problem with these are, let's see if I can get this zoomed in so you guys can see that. They're not uniform in size. I don't know if you guys can see that real well. It's very obvious when you're trying to play with these counters, and it's all the smaller counters. All the counters of this size, I have found they were not uniformly cut. They're a millimeter or two off, and it varies. You'll have a little bit of deviation between all of them. It's not like half of them are just a little bigger and half of them are a little smaller. You've got one that might be a millimeter smaller than this one. This one might be 2 millimeters bigger than the smallest one, and it's just so much variation. And it's like that with all of these small counters. The counters feel fine. They're thick enough. I think the visual quality on them works perfect for the game. No issues with it. Plenty of the counters. I just hate it when they have that size differential on it, because if you're trying to pick them up and you're trying to pick up a stack, they're gonna be harder to pick up. Especially if you're using tweezers, then you're definitely gonna have a hard time trying to pick them up, and that's just irritating. So something you guys should know, the counters were not cut well. I'll tell you what, before we get started in the actual play, let me pan over to one more sheet I want to show you guys that I've got laid out, because this is the main board you're going to be using through the game, but there is one more over here that I got set to the left that you guys need to see. Okay, this little doohickey here. This gives you a nice picture of your plane, and this is called your crew placement sheet. This is for my B-17F. I've actually got it folded over. The other side of it shows this image, and it's for your bomber's placement within the cell. I kind of like how they did this. It shows the whole formation, how it's gonna look from, you know, the front, side, back, up, and all that good stuff. I've already gone and rolled on all this, and I'll show you guys that here in a little bit. But there are options here. Let me go ahead and address this. I should have addressed it earlier. There are a buttload of optional rules you can use in this game to really get into the nitty gritty of it. I'm not using any of the optional rules. I'm just going with the base game. That way the pertinent points are hit in any optional rules, because you don't have to include them, and you might include some or not all. You can include those at your leisure, you know, whatever ones you want to decide. But the base game itself, you'll understand the concepts behind it. So when you're first starting out and you're doing your pre-mission steps, you're going to take and figure out where you are in this formation. My guy, I went ahead and rolled on that off camera. I'm number 2 here in the middle cell. And there are different modifiers that are going to affect it if you're, you know, low, middle, high, if you're in the front, if you're in the back, if you're leading the whole bomber formation, because number 1 is, hey, he's top dog, he's leading the whole formation. They'll affect, there's die roll modifiers that will affect how well the German fighters can get to you, depending on if you're straggling, if you're out of formation, in the formation, where you are. So a whole lot of neat stuff going on with it, but this is the other side of this. So this is where you're going to keep track of all your personnel. You've got your bombardier, navigator, engineer, pilot, co-pilot, radio operator, ball gunner, left wing or a left waist gunner, right waist gunner, and your tail gunner. Now, one of the sheets that I printed out is, and yes, those ones that I was talking about, you do need to make scans and copies of it, okay? Is this one, your log sheet. There are a bunch, but we're only pretty much going to be keeping track of this. Our zone worksheet and our mission log sheet. The rest of them have to do with the other planes and whether or not you're playing like a campaign. We're just going to focus on a single mission. Our single mission is going to be in campaign number 1, so early part of the war. Campaign mission number is 1, and I just selected this so I have a short campaign to show you guys, so it wouldn't take me forever to play through it. Just a couple of zones to go through. Bomber mission number, we haven't done any yet. We can name our bomber. We are flying the Memphis Gimpy. Base location, we're in England. Target city is Abbeville. Target type is an airfield. We haven't done the bombing run yet. Bomb group, bomb position, middle, I just put M for middle, and plane number 2. So that shows us where we are. Here is where we're going to keep track of our ammunition usage, and then we'll write down damage that our plane takes over here in our little notes section. And a neat little thing is we can name our bombers, or our crew members in our bomber. And you guys might recognize some of the names. I decided to go with some fellow YouTubers, with the exception of one. So we've got, as usual, our pilot is Gimpy, our co-pilot is Gimpette, and then for the rest I've got everyone's favorite, because I thought it was neat when he did this before, Mr. Stuka Joe. I hope you're feeling better and doing well, buddy. Navigator's Marco, engineer's Rado, radio operator is Derek, and then we have Bart, Greg, and Judd. I call this my ham tag gunner crew here. And then Mo, gaming table, taking up the tail turret there. So a bunch of familiar names. If you haven't seen those guys, definitely go check them out. So this is where we're going to keep track of, you know, our stuff. And you can print out a handful of these if you want, or just do it in pencil like I do and erase it in between the zones if you want to. In your booklet, let me grab it. And this is what I'm talking about. There are so many little charts you have to keep track of here. When you are selecting, and yes, I'm going to get to this chart here in just a sec, but I kind of got onto this, so I'm going to do it. When you're starting your mission and you're selecting your target, you're going to take and go to the right table, and it's going to tell you where, and this is after you've rolled off on what campaign you're doing, what target, what all that good stuff. Okay, we'll touch on that in a sec. But the zone numbers here at the top correlate to the right side of this board, and that's how far the mission goes. So when you stop having numbers in these boxes, that's how far the mission lasts. That's why I picked this top easy one here, zone 2, zone 3. Zone 3 is where our target is. That's our farthest right area. And these modifiers are numbers that you need to write in that zone worksheet. So -2/W, W stands for water, -1/F, F is for France. Tilt it down so you guys can see it. And then there's, you know, a whole bunch of different ones. These will affect things if you're bailing out of your aircraft if you get shot down. So however far over it goes, and it goes up to zone 15 here on the right, and it's got the names again, is how far your bomber is going to be flying. That is going to affect potential air cover, fighter cover. They can only go so far in the early parts of the war when they don't have the P-51 to, you know, shoot out there. So keep that in mind. Now, I'm not going to take and go through every single little thing on rolling off for your mission, just because I'm trying to save a little time, but you're going to roll on your campaign selection, your campaign targets. Now, me personally, if you want to just select what you want to do, select your campaign, select your target, that's fine. If you're just wanting to do a single mission, but if you're wanting to do like a, you know, actual linked out campaign of 25 or so missions, I would just pick what campaign number you want to do and then do your rolling off on your tables here for your targets that you're going to be assigned to. And there's so many. This book it's thick, so we can't go into every single one of those. But those numbers that we got, they enter right there. So zone 2, I just jotted it in there, -2/W for water. And then down here for zone 3, which I haven't wrote in there yet, -1F. I had played through this earlier and left some of my original stuff on here, and then just erased my previous results. That way I could just kind of play through it again for you guys. So if you're wanting to just do a single mission, just to kind of play the game, you can pretty much get by with your log sheet and your zone worksheet. And even still, if you don't want to, you don't have to have the zone worksheet. You can just have a scrap piece of paper to write this on. This just makes it easier, so to help remember what things you need to roll for. Weather, contrails, formation, if you end up below 10,000 feet, but that'll be because you took damage, German air resistance, things of that nature. You can jot all that down, which we'll get into here in a sec. So on our chart here, which I'm finally getting to, like I said, you got all your guys, which I've got named on there. You got however many extinguishers that you have if you catch fire. B-17's got 5, so I've got 5 counters stacked up on here. Some planes have fewer. I think it's like 5, 3, and 1, depending on what you're flying. And you'll have different crew members if you're flying something different. Like there's an extra ammo guy in the YB-40 to help run ammo out to all the different gunners. Now, something I did to help me was I took these little counters. These are your gun counters, okay? And I'm sorry, I've looked, I cannot find the image files for these things, and I did not think to take a scan before I punched them. I should have done that so I could put them on the screen, but I'll hold them up for you guys. So these are your targeters. These are for all the different gunners that you have on the plane. When you are attacked, you're going to take these counters, and if they are attacking within this gun's field of fire, so for example, the radio can attack at 6 o'clock high. All right, it doesn't have a whole lot of options. The nose gun can attack at 12, low, level, and high. There's left cheek, right cheek where they can fire. Your top turret up here where it can fire. You like your ball turret down here. It's got a lot of different fire zones. Your tail gunner where he can fire. It's overlisted. This way, when you take enemy fighters on your battle board, you're going to take the counter and you're going to place it on the aircraft that it's firing at. But it can only fire in certain directions. So that's just something to kind of help you keep track. And for me, it's easier this way if I have it next to all my different guys. That way I can just take and look. There is a chart in the rulebook that lists down all the different, no, it's not in the rulebook, it's in the game tables, that lists down all the different fields of fires for your different weapons. But I personally find it easier to just go off of this and just look, okay, I've got a fighter coming in from 3 o'clock at level. So let's see which ones can fire at that. Okay, well, my top turret here can do it. You know, my right waist can do it. My ball turret can do it. And just take those and put them over there. Other than that, I just kind of keep this off to the side, and we'll switch back over to the battle board and we will get started. Okay, so we're back over here. We're back to our little battle board, and we're basically ready to start our game. We are going to start with this little game tables booklet here, and I'm going to try to hold it up and show you guys what I'm doing and what I'm consulting, but there are just, like I said, a buttload of tables, a lot of modifiers, so I'm going to probably end up reading out a lot of it to you. The first couple of pages are where you're getting your position, your cell position, where you are in the bomber cell itself. Like I said, I already took care of that, and then your fighter coverage is going to be listed here. I've already got all that rolled for. Like I said, we're bomber number 2, middle cell, and we've got fair fighter cover. So we're going to leave it as is for now, and that is not going to be rolled on again. Like your fighter cover is zones for campaign 1, that's zones 2 through 5. So once I hit zone 6, then I'd be rolling again, but as you can see, it's none. So it's nothing you can do at that point. Actually, they only go so far, the early bombers, and it's different, or the early fighters rather. It's going to change dramatically when you get down to like some of the later campaigns where they had long distance fighters, drop tanks, and all that other good stuff. We're pretty much right here at the starting the missions table, which is the blue there, 3.1 takeoff procedure. Okay, now on the off chance that my bomber crashes and dies here on takeoff, which can happen, we'll take and just ignore that and keep going for the sake of playing the game, but it can happen, and I know that would crush some hearts, especially if you're on like mission 12 or 13 or 14 of a campaign you've been playing, and your bomber just happens to crash on takeoff and kill all your crew in a fiery death. And your crew can actually level up in this game. Your crew can, your bombers can become ace bomber gunners that have taken out a bunch of fighters, and they start getting modifiers for that. So that's part of the reason you keep track of everything in this game. All right, so we can see here on our little chart, I'm going to be holding up a lot of paper for you guys. Right there on that leftmost little blue one there, weather over the base. Table 3.1. All right, so we're here, table 3.1. There are potential modifiers depending on if you're the 8th Air Force in England or the 15th in Italy and what time of the year it is. For us, we're in August. There is no modifier, no minus or plus or anything for potential weather. So we're just rolling on it as is and leaving it as it is. Hopefully we'll get a 3 or higher so we don't have anything bad, but knowing my luck here recently, that's not going to happen. And yes, Gimpy dropped a dice. 3, whoo, by the skin of my teeth. Okay, so we have good weather. Let me find my piece of paper. God, there's just so much to keep track of in this game. All right, so our zone weather, we're going to take and mark down. No, that's zone 2. I'll just write good above it so I know that we got good for base zone 1. Keep track of that. And can I get my die that I dropped? Yes, I can. All right, it didn't go too far. Here we go. Now, next, we are in takeoff. Okay, so yes, we could have a potential scrub if the weather was really bad, but we didn't. So, right over here in takeoff, rolling a D10, and if you look at the top left of all your tables, it's going to tell you what you're going to roll, because sometimes you're rolling 1d6, 2d6, 1d10, 2d10. Sometimes you're reading them as percentages, so there's a lot of different things you have to keep track of. A 1, possible engine malfunction. 2, if weather over base is poor, the formation accident. Otherwise, takeoff is okay. So basically, the only thing we can't have here is a 1, because our weather's good, and 3 through 10 is takeoff okay. So Anything but a 1 is fine, but I've been rolling a shitload of 1s here recently. Let's hope that doesn't happen. We'll just see what we get here. Come on, no whammy. 2. You gotta be kidding me. Oh, let me move this over a little bit because it is not showing up in camera. I thought it was. Okay. We'll take, oh, and I did forget to mention, you're gonna have your little counters here. Your little B-17 bomber counter has a little 8th Air Force symbol there on it. And then your primary target. And you're gonna put that in the farthest zone that you have modifiers for. So again, my zone is 3, and we're starting, 1 is always going to be your base. So you can see I'm pretty much going 1 forward, then my target, then turning around, come back, and bam. So it's why I chose this mission, because it'd be easy and quick to show you guys while yapping about it. So we took off and almost had issues, but we lucked out as far as that was concerned. And then here it goes over, the bomber crashes on takeoff. And there's so many different options even for that. Just there's literally options for everything in this game. If you roll a 1, you got bomber still on the runway, crashes into runway barrier, crew safe, and B-17 repairable by next mission. 2, bomber still on runway, crashes into barrier, bomber wrecked, get a new bomber for next mission. For crew status, see note A. Roll 1d6 for each crew member, 1 to 3. Crewmen injured, 4 to 6, roll on table 517, apply any die roll modifiers. And it just goes on like that with everything in this game. You're going from one chart to the next chart. Could this happen, this happen, this happen? When it comes to the actual gameplay itself, the majority of the decisions you're making, that I don't want to make it sound like a bad game, because I do like the game. I like games like this. But if you don't like chance, if you don't like the dice, and you don't like tables, I'm wholeheartedly telling you, this is not the game for you. The components, for the most part, with the exception of the uneven counters, are good. I really don't see a way they could have had the rulebook and the charts and everything laid out any better than they do. Maybe if they had put them in color and, you know, maybe had a nicer material, but that's nitpicky. There's just no way to have that many charts done into a player aid. It is what it is. One more thing before we continue on with our mission I meant to mention earlier that was a little nagging at me when I was reading through this. Part of the problem I had when I first started reading over the rulebook and trying to learn the game was the fact that the rulebook is written kind of like a novel or a history book. It has little bits of history woven in to the rules and kind of explaining why certain things are certain ways in the game. For example, when it's explaining the bomber cell formation and where your bomber is going to be, you know, in this whole formation, it gets into why the formation is the way that it is in the previous formation, and history behind it, and the general who came up with it, and the firing arcs and all that. That's cool, that's interesting to know, but it's kind of a problem having it in with the rules, because then if I've got to go back to a section of the rules because I'm trying to figure something out, I'm having to discern through pieces of history to find the rules themselves. I didn't much care for that. I much would have rather had, and grab the rule book so I can show you. I would have rather had the rule book have kind of an aside, right? So instead of it being written out in little columns, I would rather have just maybe had the rules here with examples over here to the side, possibly with excerpts with, hey, this is why it is the way it is, instead of it written out this way, all right, to where you're just sitting there reading it and it's kind of explained, and it doesn't explain it poorly, but you definitely don't want to take and have to weed through the section of the rules on whatever it is, you know, bomber cell formations to find out the specific rule when it's got all this superfluous information that doesn't pertain to the game itself. And there's a lot of that in this rulebook. That definitely threw me off. The rulebook doesn't read hard. It's not badly written in that aspect. You can definitely pick up the rulebook, read through it to understand the basics of the game. Honestly, when it comes to the game, that little flow chart. Where's my little flow chart here? I find this more useful than the rule book, to be honest with you. This definitely shows you what to do. Hey, you're going to start here and you're going to go to this and then this and then this and this and this, and these are the tables you need to go to. If you printed this off and followed it to the letter, you could play the game without reading the rule book. That's my promise to you. If I hadn't have found that, I doubt I'd be playing this game on camera for you guys right now. It really does make that big of a difference. All right, my review through is becoming like a gimpy bitch fest. So let me get more into the specifics. Let me grab my zone chart here for you, and we will get ready to get into the next aspect. God, there's so much paper all around. You guys can't see it because you're only looking at this little bit, the interesting portion, but I have just stacks of paper that I have to go through when we get into the game itself. All right, we just did our takeoff, so we're good. That means we are officially over section 1, and then that's when we start our sequence of play here, and our first sequence is going to be to move. Okay, so basically you'll start here, you'll move your little counter 1 forward, and once your counter's there in whatever zone, that's when you're going to start your sequence of play and go along just following this all the way along.